Alright guys, just wanted to make a quick video about dictionaries for Korean. So there's two for beginners, and then there's one that's a bit more advanced, I suppose, that you can start using later on in your learning. So the first one for beginners, and I recommend this for beginners because of some of the features that I'll talk about in a minute. So let's search up a word to begin with. So we got radio. So when you search a word, you'll be given the word, the origin of the word, and if it's just a pure Korean word, it won't have the origin, and then you have um, the definition, no, not definition, the category of the word here in Korean and in English, so you can pick up a Korean word there, and then you have these stars, which will tell you the level of the word. So you can use this if you're making your own Anki cards, or there's certain words that you will want to remember. So 3 stars is like the easiest, and then 2, and then 1 is the like rarer words. So really anything with a star you want to be learning, and then if you're just beginning, all the 3 star words you want, if you search a word and it's 3 star word, you think, all right, it's definitely worth remembering. And then when you've got a lot of 3 star words, you want to be moving on to 2 star words, and then 1 star words as well. And then eventually you'll just, every time you search a word, it'll probably have no stars because you already know all the good words, or all the common words anyway. So when you're starting off, it's really good to build up. So underneath we have the description, we have the word. It's like a translation sometimes, and then sometimes it's just a word, and it's not even related sometimes, or it'll be like a weird translation that doesn't really make sense, or it'll be like some idiom or something. But and then you have the Korean description, and then it's translated into English underneath. And I'm not sure if it's computer translated, but the translations are like perfectly accurate. It's probably all just taken from Naver anyway, which I'll show you afterwards. Anyway, so you can change it to just Korean if you wanted, or just English. Although I do recommend having both there, because then you can check, you can read the English description, and then you can just pick up words from the Korean description, even while you're still in quite a low level. So that there might be words that you already know in there, and then if you can understand that, that's when you know you're getting better at the language. And then eventually you can just completely do that. So what else do we have here? We've got idioms, which this word doesn't have. So let me try 먹다. So then you have idioms that you can go to as well. So all the idioms, I think it has most of the idioms in here. You can see the word if you, as it's used in a definition, which will give you more example sentences. Although these sentences are a bit weird sometimes, and like dictionaryfied. And then you've got usage example, which is really good if you want more examples. But if you click onto the word, there are a ton of examples as well. So there are other words that have hanja in them, and these will have, you'll be able to, when you click on it, you'll be able to hover over them and see the name of the hanja, and the level of the hanja as well. So that's pretty good. And then also, just as a tip, say it's a hanja word, it doesn't always have the base form. So here we go, sangban, and then this is 2 different ones to the ones I'm about to show you. So here, sambangbuda is completely, it's not a word on its own. So it's not just sangban as these 2 words. It doesn't even exist in the dictionary. And there is also another one that I've got an example of. So this doesn't have its base word, but it still has the jok version. So there's that to look for as well. So sometimes it won't show up. So if you just type in the 2 starting letters, and then you go ahead, and then you'll see the hada or the dweda form lower down. So the main problem with this, and the reason I don't recommend using it forever, is it does not have all the words in it. It doesn't have every single word ever. It just has most of the words, which is why it's good for beginners, because you won't get overwhelmed by the amount of words that come up. Because when I show you later on the Naver dictionary, you can get too many words, and it can be way too confusing, and words that are like hardly ever used, or like from a dialect or something, and then that's what makes it not so good for complete beginners. So I really recommend this one because mainly I like the layout. But there is another one I'll show you in a second that is basically the same, but it has one downside for me. So some more downsides are sometimes it loads really slow, like super slow. So sorry, it loads. It'll just some days it'll just go super slow. I don't know what it's to do with, but that can be a big downside. So this is really good for beginners. And then you also have this one, which is the Naver dictionary for Korean learners, but I don't think you can access it through the actual Naver site. So you need the link, or you might be able to Google it, but I'll leave the link in the description. So this is basically the same thing, except it has most of the words, and some words don't have example sentences. So if I choose a word that I've already searched up ages ago, okay, that's not a good one. Let's try something Yukshin. Here we go. So here is a good example. So we have the word and the hanja and everything, and the pronunciation, all this, all that. So then you have the meaning, and then the meaning in Korean, and then all this. But the problem is that when you search a word and it has multiple meanings, it will take you here, and you won't get the description. It will just give you this, and that's one advantage that Krdict has over this. Is if you want the description, you need to use that one. Personally, I prefer that one, but this website is really good, and it's actually the exact same one as the app that you can get on your phone. So if you want to use the app, it'll be the exact same one as this. It has all the stars and everything exactly the same. I'm not sure if they draw from the same place or not, but it just gives you on the main page, if there's multiple meanings, it just gives you the meanings, which can sometimes be a bit vague, and especially later on, they don't give you the actual meaning. It's just an English word that you would use to represent that, say if you were translating or something. So as we can see, it's got most of the words in there, and actually for me that is kind of a disadvantage because it stops you from advancing. So even though it has all the words, you might think that's a good thing, but then it stops you from pushing yourself to just going like, oh, I can understand this in Korean, I could just look it up in Korean. So we can then use the Korean dictionary for Koreans that Koreans will use if they want to look up a word. So this is really good when you've passed a certain point and you can start understanding the descriptions. You don't want to get stuck translating English words. You just want to move on to the Korean in itself, Korean describing itself, so you can understand more about the word. It makes more sense, and you'll start understanding other words more because you'll see them more in the descriptions. So it has pretty much every single word in here. There's a few words that aren't in here, and what you can do is just Google them, and you'll usually get a picture of what you need, or there will be like a wiki page for that thing or something. That's usually what happens. So the good thing about this is, let me think of a word. So let's go back to ihe. So ihe, what you can see in this dictionary is you have the synonyms and the antonyms, and then also if you click the word, you can see them as like a diagram kind of thing, and it has like even more synonyms and even more antonyms, but they're not always directly related. They're just similar, like have a similar meaning. So that's really good as well. And then also towards the bottom you have example sentences, but usually there is v live sentences. So you have v live sentences at the bottom, and then that can take you to v live, and it's kind of cool. So you can see like clips of how they're used. And then also we have a big problem with this is, as I was saying earlier, is that there are sometimes when you search a word, there are too many meanings, and this is the reason for using the other dictionaries towards the start, especially when you start learning, because when you start getting into words like this uni, you can see it has three meanings, and then also it can mean un-e, as in something of whatever, which one it wants to be. So silver, something of silver. So it just starts to get more complicated. And I found this the other day, and I didn't know which one it was, so I just had to ask somebody. So this is the downside to just having every single word. So hopefully you can choose which dictionary you want to use. These are probably the three best dictionaries, although I would say that these two are the exact same thing. But the reason we don't use this English one here on the actual Naver site is it just doesn't have hardly any of the features because it's just for Koreans. I'm not even sure it has. So this doesn't really have example sentences. Oh, it has some English example sentences, and it also has these VLive ones as well. But it's just for Koreans who are learning English, so you don't get all the other features that you would need as a Korean learner. So hopefully, you know which dictionary you want to use, you know what level you're at, and you can search up words easily. So thank you for watching.